of love on my shoulders. I thought that it would be easier than this. I thought my heart had grown colder, but the warmth of your kiss I can't dismiss.
Good tune that, is it? Shame we can't get that one, obviously, through the YouTube copyright. Hello, welcome to Pursuit of Perfect System. In this video, we're going to be talking about the completed new music server that we've recently built using new JCat products, the NetFemto card, the JCat chassis, and the JCat reference Serial 88 cable. Now, I know I've already made a couple of song demonstration videos showing the system as it was, but we put some new things in the system. If you remember, we put in a Tellurium Q Silver Diamond digital cable using BNC connections to connect from the computer to our Cord Electronics Q-Tist DAC. And we also put in an Audioquest Thunder power cable. Now, the system was sounding terrible at first, which is why I've been away for a few days, and obviously I've used the build videos for the project to kind of fill in the gaps and a few Munich videos. But the system is now sounding absolutely outstanding. And the cables are running. It's taken a good few days for these new cables to get going. As I say, it sounded awful at first. But I'm here really to tell you a bit more about the build for obviously the audio piece in the music server, because the last video where I left you off, it was about, well, it's probably about well gone 11 o'clock at night. I'd been literally building that PC all day, bearing in mind I had to dismantle one, move everything across, and I had some issues and stuff doing that. And I had issues with filming, the cameras, the lights that we use kept running out of battery, so I was having to swap them around, go and charge them and stuff like that. So it made the process twice as long as it should have done, really. And then, so 11 o'clock at night, I set it all up. Go to fire it up for the first time and have a little quick cheeky listen, even though it's silly o'clock. I was going to have a quiet listen and press power. Absolutely nothing. Messed around with some things, made sure everything was connected properly. Press power. Absolutely nothing. No power at all. And that's the first time that's ever happened to me. I've built maybe 7 or 8 computers in my life, maybe even more than that. And I've never had that before. You know, you wire it all up and you always get power and you always get into your BIOS at least. And then you might have some issues there. You need to change some settings and stuff. But I couldn't even get into BIOS. I could not get any power for the computer at all. So I was scratching my head and thought, well, maybe I'm unlucky and got an unfortunate power supply that doesn't work. So I unplugged everything, got the old power supply back out with the Pico PSU, put all that back in, and exactly the same, no power. Maybe the button's then not working, maybe that's not connected up properly. So I was nicking cables and stuff from the old audio PC, putting them in the new one, still absolutely nothing. So I went to bed at about 2:30, quite stressed out. You know, I couldn't literally get anything to work. Now I reached out the next day, I reached out to Marcian at JPlay and JCat products, and he suggested taking everything out of the computer, not the motherboard or the CPU or anything like that, just the RAM, take all the RAM out, take the cards out, the JCat cards out, and see if anything happened. And that actually got me some power. That got the motherboard kind of back to life and got me into the BIOS, which was a real relief, to be honest, because at that point, you know, anything could have been broken. I could have damaged the motherboard putting it together. Maybe I'd damaged the RAM putting it together. So because I was in the BIOS, it made me think maybe there's a problem here with the BIOS. I'd already tried to clear it by changing clearing the CMOS, popping the battery out and stuff like that. It's an older motherboard, you have to do all that. None of that worked. So I went and checked, and Asus, unbelievably, hadn't released a new BIOS for an old board, this 5 or 6 year old board, for about 3 years. And all of a sudden, there's a new BIOS there, sort of 2 or 3 years later, or 2 or 3 years newer than the very latest one, which I was running up until that point. So I updated the BIOS for the motherboard, and everything's been absolutely dandy ever since. So the reason I'm bringing this up, and the reason I thought I would mention it, is because, you know, I had some issues, I had some problems, and those problems could have been anything. And straight away, I did assume maybe there were some issues with the brand new products, as you would. But all the products and everything in this computer works absolutely, and still works absolutely perfectly. And I think that's testament to the build quality, because I was pulling it in, I was pulling it out, I was popping the RAM in and out, I was messing around with it, really getting quite physical with some of the parts, because when you plug in a 24-pin plug into the motherboard for the power for the motherboard, it's real stiff. You really have to kind of bend the motherboard and got a bit quite pphysical with them and stuff. So I put the PC under quite a bit of duress, and everything in there still works perfectly. It's a testament to build quality and stuff, I really think. And there's also a little bit of a silver lining to come out of it. Originally, when I built the PC, I assumed I would run And this is what it seems like the best thing to do. You run the power, your PCI power or your ATX power, sorry, from the JCAT 400 watt linear power supply to like a connector on the back of the chassis, and then on the inside of the chassis you run from that connector to your motherboard and to your CPU. Now I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about something that Inuos said about their statement range. They try and keep all their cable runs as short as possible. So it actually made more sense for me, because the 400 watt linear power supply is just over there behind the KEF speaker. The cable one of the cables that come with its longer one, that was long enough to run through into the back of the chassis through one of the spare expansion slots that we've not got nothing in, straight into the motherboard and straight into the CPU. So I've done away with that connector, and I've also done away with the extra cable. So I've saved myself, 2 connections, maybe a meter of cable, really. So I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make audible wise, but it makes more sense to use less cable and certainly use less connections in a signal path for anything. So your audio PC is now sounding fantastic, and now we've had some time with to put on new cables. We're really happy with how they're sounding. And just quickly on how I did that, it's easy in a sense. When you're running a power cable in, all I've done is leave the audio PC on, and the power cable's powering at the 400 watt JCAT linear power supply, so it's been on for days. That's naturally going to obviously run itself in. Doing a digital cable is actually just as easy, because what I did, Tellurium Q, with some of the cables they sent me through, sent me their setup CD. Now track 2 on the setup CD is like a run-in track, which basically, if you listen to it, it's got loads of different bass samples and mid-range samples and a high frequency sample. So that made, even though it's a digital cable, probably doesn't matter what signal you send it to me, it made more sense to use the run-in CD song track, the burn-in track, to run this in. So I literally queued it up, as many times as I felt. It's an hour long, so God knows how many hours. Just kept queuing it up, checking it every now and then, sticking a load more in the queue. So that just played and played and played and played with the system off, and it just kept playing and playing and playing for days and days and days. So that was actually really easy to run in. And then something we did right at the end, because it's something I noticed on the Tellurium Q website, is track 3 on their setup CD is specifically designed, I think it's for all their cables, specifically designed for the silver range, the Silver Diamond range. So I run that just once. Actually, I ran it twice through the process, because that's what Tellurium Q suggests, and that gave us definitely a better sound, a much more expressive sound with the cable we was using before and the cheap freebie power cable. Everything sounded excellent, but it was all just a little bit reserved, and it was all just a little bit safe sounding. It wasn't as good. So with the new cables, we're getting a much more expressive sound, which gives you kind of more of what's good and bad, I suppose. Really, when you do that, you're less reserved. You're getting more of everything. But I was still listening to it yesterday. I had a good listening session. I was really enjoying it. Now, when I was out in Munich, if you've seen the video, I did a shot and filmed on the cuff. It wasn't planned or anything. I was talking to Furutech, and they said, come and film an A/B demo of their new NCF booster products, which are, to be honest, I didn't know much about. I'd seen them, but I didn't really know much about them. And in that demo, that A/B demo, I was standing there, I was listening to the system, and it sounded excellent until they put the speaker cable, actually wasn't even a speaker cable, just a signal cable, I think a digital one, back on top of some NCF signal boosters, and all of a sudden the sound was elevated. I was like, wow, that's made a really big difference. That's really interesting. So I got chatting with Furutech, explaining a bit about Pursuit Perfect System, what I do here, and very kindly they sent me a big box of their NCF boosters. They sent me 3 of the normal ones, and they've sent me 8 of the signal ones, so that we can sort of do lots of different testing with speaker cables and all sorts. So I'm obviously chuffed to bits with that, and I've had them for well over a week, and I've just been sitting. I was like, oh, I didn't even open the box. I thought, as soon as I open the box, I'm going to want to start putting them in the system. So I was listening yesterday. I was like, I can't take this anymore. I can't wait any longer. So I got out just one of the standard NCF boosters, and I put it in the system. I put it on the IEC that powers the 200 watt JCAT linear power supply, which is the feed to our power feed to our Cord QT stack. And I put it in. It's a really simple install. I didn't do it totally properly, but I just did it enough. Thought, just have a little listen. It's like, wow, I can't believe that. I genuinely can't believe it. It improved the sound in a way that I'm going to talk about in a second. So I was like, straight away, right, I've got to try another one. So I've got another one out, and I put it on the IEC that comes into the Luxman C700U preamplifier, and I put it on that, and then I sat and listened for hours, and I was amazed at the sound quality, absolutely amazed. And the reason I was amazed is because adding these products, these NCF booster products, had done something to the sound that I've not been able to achieve before. It didn't give me more bass or more detail or more treble or anything, but it seemed to be reducing the kind of fuzz and the haze that you get around everything in a soundstage. And the bit that is really, really difficult to try and iron out, you can put in fantastic mains conditioning, fantastic cables, fantastic acoustic treatment, a dedicated mains to everything. You can isolate absolutely everything, and yet there's always still a little bit of fuzz and haze over everything. And adding a couple of NCF boosters seemed to remove that, so we started getting a more realistic mid-range, a more realistic sounding vocal, and instruments are all sounding just more realistic, and they're all fleshed out a bit more realistic, and they all stand out more. And I was like, I haven't been able to achieve that. I've been trying hard to get that sound quality out of this system and out of these speakers. I genuinely didn't think that these KEF references were capable. I figured we might need to go up to something, the next range of speaker up, the 20 grand speaker or something, to get that level of clarity. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Just need to put some NCF in the system. So today I was having a listening session earlier, and again, like a kid at Christmas, I went and got out some of the NCF signal booster products, and I've put one each side, just before the speaker cable goes into the speakers, and that's where we are right now. And it's phenomenal sound. It's absolutely phenomenal sound. So I have to do a couple of demonstrations because that's what I do. This first one's going to be something a little bit different. This is from the album Aristocrats. I'm going to put it on, and I'll come back and talk after. that's enough of that. Well, hope you enjoyed that. It's a really, dynamic song, isn't it? Big guitar and stuff like that. It's sounding absolutely incredible. And what's really interesting, as I say, adding the NCF booster products has really elevated the sound in different ways. Funnily enough, the signal boosters seem to change the sound different to the normal NCF. So I'm going to have some real good fun and playing around with them. And I hope you can see we've got one. If you can see the little metal spikes coming out there, that's the one I said is powering the cutest. And hopefully you can see down there and down there. They're our signal ones that we're using for the speaker cables, and you never see the one behind the preamplifier. That's well hidden. But as I say, really happy with the Tellurium Q Silver Diamond. That was a good addition to the system, and obviously the Thunder power cable. You already know what I feel about the Audioquest cables designed by Garth Powell. They're incredible power cables. That's the bottom of the range one, and it's still incredible. That's actually a really good value product. It gets the bottom of the range ones expensive for some people, but actually really well priced. When you jump up to the one up, the price difference is massive. So the Thunder is like a little bargain there from Audioquest, a little tip obviously from me. And we're using Tellurium Q Black Diamond speaker cables. They're in here now, and to be honest, they're growing on me as a speaker cable, and they're definitively a reference speaker cable, and they've got a mid-range to die for. It's really, the mid-range is to die for. And the bass, I'm getting better and better bass out of them all the time, and they're growing on me and stuff. And as I say, it's been a process of they're going to give me everything for the system that's good and bad. So it's up to me to try and get the system as good as I possibly can to start actually hearing the best of these Tellurium Q Black Diamond speaker cables. So that's the video that's going to be coming next. I'm going to do like a little mini review for the Black Diamonds. Now I've got the system at a quality that's high enough to do those speaker cables some justice. Now normally you would think it's the other way around. You need to get the system to get the speaker cables at a high enough level to do the system some justice, but really it's been the other way around. Even with a system of this kind of level, where I've put a ton of attention to detail, still wasn't enough attention to detail for those speaker cables, which is actually really interesting. So right, I hope you've enjoyed this. So the audio PC's done. Obviously, we are going to do a review for the JCAT Net Femto card, where we just sort of record the differences that it makes feeding into that by comparison to feeding it into the standard motherboard for locally stored music, possibly some stream stuff as well. I don't really have streaming accounts. Everything I buy music and rip it to local storage. That to me sounds best. But the whole idea of the Net Femto is to improve stream music, so we'll try and do that as well. That is all coming. I've got loads of videos for the Furutech products coming, and a little gem. I've just got approval for something that's really, really exciting for the channel to celebrate our going over 1 million. We're well over the 1 million now views, but to celebrate the achieving the 1 million, I've got something organised. It's not organised yet, but I've got something agreed that's going to make some stellar content that I'm really excited to go and do. So right, I hope you're enjoying what we're doing. We're back for all the bits that we've just mentioned, and I'll see you soon. Take care.